Senator Cadell.
Going back to 000 situation, if I can. More FOI documents I'll refer to here. It's from the same batch, FOI 24166. I'm going to start on document 8 and then go to document 12. So what occurred to me over the break is that I was looking at how much information the department and other arms might have prior to the minister going out and there. So I want to go on document 8 at 10:15. There's an email from Craig, is it Riviere, to a number of people. I think both of you on the end are included. It says, thanks, Kath. To be clear, we assume some Optus customers cannot call 000 right now. That is answered as correct. Followed up by, I've had staff members here test. So at ACMA had people test as well, by the looks of it. I've had staff members test. One got a dead call, went nowhere. Another connected recorded message, star 000. So the camp-off roaming capabilities may not actually be working for Optus customers, which is a significant issue. Again, at 10:18, well, I think you might have been on the call roundabouts, given your notes. And then your reply at the total of it. This was just raised on the call with Telstra. Minister is calling CEO Optus to confirm. Telstra is certainly receiving a bunch of camp-on calls, but can't confirm they are getting them all. So was the staff we're talking about that made the calls departmental staff or ACMA staff? Are they different or different groups or the same people?
Different groups, Senator.
Okay, so we've now got two different groups from within the organisation made calls, both having unsuccessful attempts. The presumption is there. When did it change from the presumption from that first thing? To be clear, we assume some Optus customers can't call 000 correct. When did that change?
Sorry, Senator.
From the first thing. Thanks, Kath. To be clear, we assume some Optus customers cannot call 000 right now correct. When did that assumption change?
So I think what we heard on the call from Telstra shortly thereafter, which you'll see the notes from in this FOI request, was the same information, that Telstra could see that calls were coming through, but that they had heard that some were perhaps not. So I think for the next hour or so, you can see emails back and forth in this FOI suggesting that there was some information that some calls weren't getting through, but that it was clear that many calls were.
So on-ramp wasn't completely working, it was partially working because some Telstra towers were still active and not forming them onto the ramp on count.
Sorry, some Optus towers.
Some Optus towers, yeah.
Possibly that is part of the explanation, but I don't think we know definitively at this point precisely what happened to the
not
Optus
all
network.
Optus things were going on the camp on that.
Senator, I think there are a multitude of possible scenarios. There were certainly Optus calls that were camping on and getting through. There seem to be there are now, according to Optus, 2,700 that tried and didn't, and it may be that there were some Optus calls that actually got through on the Optus network. But getting to the bottom of that is something that we're still working through with Optus.
Then on document 12, again before the 11 o'clock press conference, and there is a redacted address here, so I don't know if it's the Minister's office or otherwise, I don't know if it got a media ACMA through this goes, hi again, Craig. Please be advised that I've just received a phone call from Gerald Sholton from Esther. He says they've been in contact with Telstra's 000 operator, who claimed the issue is that the outage is so significant that calls are failing to leave the Optus network, so not getting a chance to go through another provider. In short, the claim is that the failure is from Optus, not the National Systems Network. So that happened again at that stage before the issue went through. And then Craig again forwarded that to you. Sam Cath, some more information recalls not getting through to 000 and apparently where the problem lies. And that's so 20 minutes before, it was becoming more apparent that the 000 calls weren't coming through. And no one spoke to the Minister's office, contacted the Minister's office, told the Minister's office prior to the 11 o'clock that was happening. Is that what I have to think?
So, again, Senator, the Minister heard that same information directly from Telstra on that 10:10 call.
Agree with that? These are post that?
Yeah, that's right. So I don't think anything you're seeing in that next half hour or so changed the position. It was very clear. It remained clear that we had some information that there were problems, but there were also calls getting through. So I don't think really anything we're seeing there pre-11 or indeed pre about midday changed our understanding at that stage.
It was your evidence that earlier today that on the call it was anecdotal evidence only anecdotal.
Yes.
Here we are seeing a mounting range where literally Esther are saying they've been in contact, and it is so significant. The evidence is mounting more and more that this isn't anecdotal. There's actual real-time evidence, real people in the world. There's an email that went to ACMA before on document 13 that states as early as 9 o'clock in the morning that Victorian can't get through to 000 and these sorts of things are happening. Why was all I want to know this mounting evidence, not anecdotal anymore, serious examples of what's going on, admissions from the 000 operator that's not working. Why didn't the department correct from that 1010 call to the minister or the minister's office that this was not the case, that it may not be accurate anymore to say that the camp on is working?
Well, because, Senator, it was working.
Not all of it.
That I understand that, but we couldn't. We
This is my car where the engine's working. I've got no wheels.
No, Senator, I don't think that's. I'm not going to try and work with an analogy, but I think the key from the way I would see what you've just read out is that there were increasing. There's certainly, you're right, there are a whole lot of people that are beginning to say, hey, there's something here that doesn't seem quite right. I mean, the language that ETSA used with respect to what they heard from the emergency call person, I think you said, was that they claim that some might not be getting through. The key point here is the only person that actually knew what was happening on the Optus network was Optus itself. And the minister did contact, or was contacted by, I think she initiated contact before the 11 o'clock press conference with Optus itself and was assured it was working. So the only person that there were lots of, so I'm not suggesting that there were lots of people trying to work out what was going on, and there were certainly people who were concerned something was not quite right here, that perhaps not all calls were getting through. But having said that, the one thing we did know for certain was some were getting through, and then the advice from the company itself that has the network upon which these calls were being initiated at that point in time was saying it was working. So,
this is what, okay, Telstra have had people call on the Optus network and have experience of them not getting through. Your department has had calls and not getting through. ACMA has had calls and not getting through.
I don't think Telstra doesn't have experience.
There's an email that says that they did.
Well, no, they suspected. Telstra didn't have because the calls didn't get through. Telstra didn't see the calls that didn't get through. It's a small point, but Telstra didn't actually see calls that didn't get through.
No, not from their network, but they had staff, according to another email I'll go to later.
Apologies.
Telstra had staff call and they couldn't get through. So we've got these three groups doing it, and yet we still believe Optus saying, yeah, it's all good. I've got a bridge to sell you guys, this is the way things are going on. I mean, how much evidence do we need that the three people that are in this conversation, ACMA, yourself and Telstra, have all experienced calls not getting through, and we go, not a problem, Camp On's working?
Anecdotal.
Because we had thousands of calls going through on Camp On.
We have thousands of calls not going through on Camp On, as it seems, as well.
At that point in the day, we had a small number of calls that have been attempted with no ability to work out whether that was a systemic issue associated with Optus or not, and simultaneously at that point in time evidence of thousands of calls successfully camping on, and we had the network operator saying it was working.
Was the Minister's office or the Minister given any of this extra anecdotal information prior to 11 o'clock?
I think, Senator, the information that the Minister was working on for 11 o'clock was the call with Telstra, which, as Mr Grunhardt has said, is, in a sense, painted exactly the same picture we were getting from other people, and then also the contact with Optus itself.
You think that? Can you say that there was no contact of the extra anecdotal information?
Senator, I obviously certainly don't want to be in the position of misleading you. I think Mr Windeyer is absolutely correct. But let us take it on notice just to make sure we don't wish to mislead. We'll check our records and give you an accurate answer on notice.
Okay. I suspect it would have been. The reason I'm saying it is I think if we'd had evidence of that having occurred, it would have been in the FOIs in a sense. So, but we'll check.
So everyone but Optus knows there is a problem of some magnitude.
You correctly characterised it as anecdotal evidence a moment ago.
Okay.
They sensed there was something not
right. Something was crook in Tobruk. But because Optus says, yep, you beauty, we go out and say, good on you people, dial 000.
Well, and I think
privately and publicly.
Yeah,
at this time.
I understand, but
and from our perspective, advising people otherwise at the point when thousands of calls to 000 were able to get through, advising people they would not get through did not seem to us the wise course.
It is not a risk-free proposition to advise the community that 000 is not working when people may be under threat or in danger, particularly if you are relying purely on incomplete anecdotal evidence which is emerging in real time and the provider is putting out strong statements that it is working. It would have been a very big call to go out and spread that concern in the community and possibly have had disastrous adverse consequences.
Mr. Betts, can you point me to one piece of evidence other than Optus saying that it's all going well that shows that it was all going well?
Yes, the evidence that's been provided today.
All going well, not partially going well.
No, you don't have perfect information. This is the point. So the person who does have the best information is Optus, and they were clear in their statements. Anecdotal evidence was beginning to emerge, as you've heard, in real time, minute by minute, moment by moment, and the department was providing advice to the minister, and the minister was responding as best she could. But to go out and make the call to say 000 is not working when you don't have the evidence to back it up would be an extremely hazardous course of action.
Why is it binary between 000 is not working and 000 is working? Why is there not a 000 may have difficulties in time, try another phone if you can't make it? Why is it binary? Why does it have to be, yep, working, nope, not working?
A non-binary answer.
Optus's answer was the answer which was the one that was being principally relied on, which is an entirely reasonable thing to do unless you have compelling evidence.
And as we said, Senator, over the course of that day, early in the afternoon from memory, Optus themselves came out and confirmed or advised that they were aware that there were problems. So at that point, the situation changed.
Well, thank you very much.